So that means there is always being a situation where what you think as a maker is new, what you think as a maker is useful to you, but the people who are supposed to use it will not find it useful at all. That's why useful is hard. That means by design, everybody will not be users of your innovation. It's a very fundamental thing that I want you to pick up today, is that you can understand that whenever you create, however good it is, however good you think it is, somebody will not want to use it, somebody will not like it, and that's okay, right? Because if you go to for example, in Bangalore, in India, if I walk into a big superstore, I might find 30 kinds of toothpaste. That means 30 people have made some new toothpaste. All of them are different. But I will not find them useful, right? I will find them as if some of them are only useful, maybe one, maybe two, not 28 of them. Similarly, what you make may not be useful for some people. So innovation is something new, but useful to someone. Being different is also not innovation, right? Many a times we believe that, okay, if you do it differently, you qualify as innovation. No, you don't. As the picture says, right? You cannot be different just to be. And that's when I Googled one-sleeved shirt would not exist, I thought, but it does exist. So there is somebody who finds it useful, right? I don't think that anybody would like, I thought anybody would like it, but I think there are people who actually want this. It's actually on Google. If you do it, you'll find it too. So how does business and innovation connect? So there is a nice definition by 3M, Dr. Nicholson, where he says research converts money into knowledge, okay? And innovation converts knowledge back into money. And then the business scales that money and then feeds it back to research. So all of them need the other two, right? Research needs innovation, innovation needs business, and so on. So today, the intermediate step between innovation, research, and business is startup. So for example, research might say, okay, we funded a project and we came up with a lightweight material. So that's new knowledge. Material knowledge is new, that there is some other material which is as strong as, I don't know, say aluminum, but it is cheaper and stronger. And at the same time, lighter. So an innovation person will convert that. A startup will take that idea and then convert it into a product or a service. So in this case, for example, I might make a new type of check-in suitcase, which you can carry inside a plane, where you will say, okay, now I have a lightweight. So the cabin luggage limit is 7 kgs. Let's say for the sake of discussion, the cabin luggage suitcase is 2 kgs. So you can put stuff in it worth 5 kgs. Now with this innovation, you can make it for 1 kg suitcase. And then you have 1 more kg of payload, 6 kgs of stuff you can put in. Now, from suitcase to aeroplane, people used composite fiber. A couple of decades ago, research came up with composite fiber. Dreamliner, 80-90+% is fiber, right? So then the business becomes, oh, we make a fleet of this, we make a huge global product of this, and then you feed back into more, and some part of money is fed back. So you can use innovation to monetize, like I said. How? A new product, a physical new product, an intangible new service. Suppose you have an idea and you want to patent it, you can put it in a patent form and you may not use at all, right? You may make a patent, you may protect it, but you may not make a product or service or a solution out of it. So that might still be the case that you understand the value of the idea, but you may not want to do anything with it, but you can still monetize by licensing that patent. Example. Couple of years ago, I was Googling and then I found this called Easy Bag. It's a patent by someone. He is not making Easy Bag. Okay, he is not making Easy Bag, let me repeat. But he has invented this idea and patented it to carry, basically it carries 2 kinds of pizzas, some soda, some napkins and so on, right? So with this, what he is able to do is he's able to ask $1.5 million for somebody who wants to use his idea. So this is just a patent. He didn't make the product. He didn't do delivery. He didn't do anything. But he sold it to companies, pizza making companies, basically to use this. So the idea was worth. Now, why did somebody, basically this is cardboard. There is no AI. There is no technology. There is no IoT. There is no robotics, nothing. But why is such a cardboard folded in a certain way getting him so much money? Companies who want this as usefulness, right? So they want to be sustainable. They want to be having eco-friendly packaging and so on. So who found it useful will always pay for it. But it is not always easy to have innovation and successful outcome from it. Because if you see, there was multiple startups done across the world. The one done in India and also in Canada, I have seen it in Europe. Close to 80, 90, 95% of the startups fail. Don't think for a second that they're all not smart people or idiots or anything. They're very smart people. But the reason they do, the reason only 5, 6% or 10% of them succeed is because the number one reason for failure is people build what nobody wants. That means the product usefulness that we talked about is very, very shallow. Enough work has not been put into it to make it useful. So that means tomorrow, if you build something because you like it and because you think it is useful, you're not going to buy everything that you make. Somebody else has to pay for it. And if that person who has to pay does not find it useful, like I said, I will not buy the 28 kinds of toothpaste that exist, right? And there are other reasons, etc. I want you to watch this video and then we'll discuss more.
So the button-up collar stay is a dual-purpose collar stay with a button hook on one end. This helps you fasten small, frustrating buttons on your dress shirts. Also stores up in your collar to keep it sharp and keep it from curling. So you can go that first troublesome button, probably going to be on your cuff. You're going to hook it with the button-up collar stays. You use the tip to guide and draw the two pieces of material together. You can push it through, and you give it a little spin, and it pops the button right through. The next one could be this top button of your dress shirt. So you can hook the button up to the button. You can use the tip to guide, draw the two pieces of material together. Then you can just pop through, give it a little spin. You just buttoned your own button with no frustration, no asking for help. You store it back up in your dress shirt collar to keep it looking sharp, close to hand for the rest of the day.
So if we had a face-to-face session, would have had a laugh about it. I would have seen some smiles as well. Because here, there's a very confident gentleman who thinks he has a fantastic innovation, and perhaps it is for some, but I don't know how many of you would be willing to pay for it. Let's see another one. There are two traps. Why we would like to focus is, we might focus on the wrong problems. Read problems in the beginning as usefulness in the end, right? Second one is wrong assumption. We assume wrong things. We assume that everybody is finding it difficult to put button and so on. So look at this video and we can have a look at it. I'm pretty sure many people whom I interact with find this more useful than the previous one. And there are situations where nobody wanted the previous one, even if it was given free, and people might want to pay for this. So the proof of the usefulness is when they are willing to actually pay for it, right? So when you think of this, what comes first, idea or solution? Please always start with the solution, because we get excited with the idea and then we try to see how we can, get support for our idea. So idea is a solution piece. The question is, have a smile on your face if you get a good problem to work with, because problems are not easy to find, but solutions are relatively easier to find, right? So if you start with an idea, solution, it is like having the medicine first and then finding a disease later. It will be as ridiculous and as difficult as that is. So first you will find a medicine, then you will say, who all will have to take it, kind of thing, because you don't know what it is for. So it is not that we cannot find the solution. It is that we cannot see the problem. So if you want to be successful in a startup solution, hackathon or whatever, see the problem and understand the problem, because innovation and opportunity go together. How do you understand a critical success factor is, anybody who wants to buy product from you through your innovation, they give you money. So what you give them is value through your product or service. And that's what it's in it for me. I will not buy any toothpaste, but I'll buy some toothpaste. And that is what I find valuable. And I might pay more, I might pay less, I might pay whatever. So the value that you bring is what they pay money for, right? So creative problem solving is looking at the same thing as everyone else and thinking something different. Now, this is an important factor when you're in the hackathon, because all of you are looking at the same set of problems, right? The themes are given. So you need to understand, how do you look at it? So you have to switch between maker and buyer continuously. You have to look at it from one side, go back to the other side, and come back, and so on and so forth. One of the ways to do that is to question. When you question, you understand things better, right? Don't look for answers quickly. I have a lot of questions. For example, if I ask you, how do I go from A to B, right? So there might be an orange route, a blue route, a black route, and a green route. So some of you might say, I will take the blue one. Some of you might say green, black, gray, whatever. The reason is not which route. The reason is why. If I'm looking at the time as my variable, I have to reach the shortest, then I take a certain route. If I'm looking at short distance or cost, then I look at different routes. I might have somebody who is coming from the hospital after back surgery or something, then I look for a comfortable route. I might have someone special going with me in my car, and I would like the route which will perhaps never reach B from A. So it could be anything. So if you don't know what is useful to that person, what is the importance of what you are asking from that person, it's very, very, very difficult for you to find the solution that is found useful by that person. So if you put in Google, you can check this out, what it does. And then don't make it as a decision, but see it as a decision support system. So I might find a route because of whatever variable that maybe there are more variables than what I have listed here. Then if I'm looking for a solution from A to B, then I say, give me route from A to B for this, optimized for this factor. That should be your app then, not just giving me time and distance. How do you understand this? Understanding is very important to, like I said, by asking questions. But sometimes what you see is not what it is, right? Very, very important, which is understood through this video. So the guy on the screen has a problem. He didn't have a few seconds ago. Just a few seconds ago, he was fine. The guy who walked out of the screen is an accomplished inventor. He says, I have found a solution, I have implemented, I have done. And he feels good that he has done what he has done, right? So the whole idea is, in these cases, please understand what is it that you are trying to understand and what you're seeing are not the same things. This is where a lot of discussion about market research, customer understanding, etc., comes into picture, where you try to see, okay, now I have this situation, but is it what I'm understanding? So this is again goes back to the previous point, asking a lot of questions. When you ask a lot of questions, you either validate what you have assumed or you change your assumption itself. But every question should lead you further to understanding what your customer is actually feeling. And many, many times surveys go flop, because when you ask a question, it is painted with the bias that you have, the assumption that you have. So your question should actually increase the understanding that you have, not already know what you already have. So contextual awareness is your new intelligence. Now the whole idea is, how do you understand what you're trying to do? One of the things which improves your contextual awareness is how people react to the stuff you're doing, right? So ask feedback, talking to people, understanding how they are doing things, who are those people who are, and validating what you have understood. So this is all in design thinking terminology. It's more or less called empathy, where you put yourself in their shoes and then experience it yourself, right? So how do you find problems? Is in the problem space, there are two approaches. One is there are a lot of problems that are present today. Okay. So if you look at today's world, today's scenario, there are problems that have already occurred and existing today. But there could also be potential problems in the future. Give me an example. Let me see. Now, if you say autonomous cars, just as an example, right? They don't exist today on the roads. So the problems because of them. For example, today, if you have an accident on the road, there are two vehicles probably, and there are two drivers, and there are people in it whom you can talk to resolve the problem, the damage or implication, and whose mistake was it, and who has to pay and everything. Now, potential problem in the same context is you are driving in your regular car and an autonomous car going empty to pick up its owner hits you. So whom do you talk to? Whom do you complain to? Whom do you fight with? Whom do you argue with? So there are a lot of problems which are in the future, which can come. There is no guarantee. It may not come at all. Suppose if autonomous technology does not take off, then this problem will never occur. So when you look at problems, you have to look at both sides. Is it a problem that you already have? Is it a problem that you can get in the future? Why is it important? Because the problem in the future is more risky. But if you have a good innovation for the future problems, then you have a bigger reward. Because then if not everybody can get that right. So you will be the few who will get it right. Okay. But in the present also you can have good traction, but the problems are always not shared by few. They're always shared by many. There is another situation. If you take the current situation of any problem, this is now more about existing problems. In any given situation, suppose you want to say, I want to web check into an aircraft today. The gap is if you don't have a smartphone or if you're not comfortable using the apps and so on, you may not have. So maybe the gap is if you're not internet savvy, you may not be able to do a web check-in. Okay, and maybe an elderly person of aged person or somebody who is who is not comfortable with this kind of technology. So if you solve this gap by by talking to it, you create an app and you by voice command you tell them I want to check into this flight on day. So then it'll ask you through a series of questions and kind of simulating the staff at the aircraft, right, at the airport. There could be another way of a current situation. There is no gap, but there is a disadvantage. So in the same situation, if you have done a web check-in, today you still have to go to the terminal, stand in the queue to give your bag. So you might as well do the web check-in there. Of course, there is only one advantage, which is that you may have the option to choose a seat. So then I'm not doing any web check-in, I'm just doing seat selection. So the disadvantage is you still have to join a queue in most airports to do away with your bags. So that's a disadvantage. So any current man-made situation has advantages for which it is meant for and disadvantages. Uber, you cannot book if you don't have internet connection, if you don't have data, right? So every situation will have a negativity. If there are enough people who are willing to pay for this disadvantage to be taken away, then also you have a problem that you can work with. So to quickly sum up this one, any given problem will have gaps, any situation that we have. Then there is a disadvantage which you can pick up. So how do you know which problem that we have selected is strong? So what is the problem? So when you select a problem, usually you describe, this is a problem we should solve. Actually, this is the opportunity, right? But the second question, why should we solve this problem, is very, very important to be successful in innovation. So what is the problem is not enough. Is this a valuable opportunity to pursue? Is a right step before you solve how to solve the problem and come up with new, wacky, creative ideas. So if you stop with what and jump to how, missing the why, then your strength may not be as good as it should be to be successful. If you say why the problem should be solved, then you have already created value in your mind for your customer. So this value for your customer is created not so much with the how only, but the why part of the problem. So when you create value, you would have thought about how and why this problem is useful to be solved. The solution is to be beneficial to the customer. So what is the problem? Good, but not good enough. Then why this problem should be solved? That becomes very qualification of the problem. And then how should we solve the creative process of it, right? There are some indicators that you can use to understand how you want to do this. What is the problem? When does the problem occur, or when does the problem not occur? All problems do not exist all the time. Please understand, some things, for example, might be when you're storing things, when you're using things, when you're switching it on, when you're keeping it in your pocket. There could be different situations and conditions under which the problem might occur. What does it lead to? Okay, this problem occurs. So there is a spark when I connect the TV. Okay, then what happens? So what is the problem leading to? Okay. Then the fourth one is who is affected by the problem. If there is an ATM machine which has a problem, the bank is not affected by the problem. First of all, the user of the teller machine is affected by it. So very different problems are different. People are getting affected. So when it's a public transport, when it's a medical situation, everything, there is a different attribute. We can put a different face of who is actually affected by this problem. When is this problem not a problem? In other words, when does this problem does not occur, does not appear, does not manifest into itself, and how is it this problem felt, noticed, experienced? So when there is a problem, what happens? It becomes very hot. It becomes very slow. So there could be 100 attributes that you could think. But how is this problem felt or noticed is important. Last but not least, how big is this problem? How big in a way is how many people have this problem. It's only you, me, then don't forget about it. It's not worth solving. Because in the end, why is this important? If there are more people who have this problem, that means the problem is big, your addressable market is big. Then only you can make money. Because in that addressable market, many of them will not find it useful. Now, that is why it is important to understand upfront. You need to see very clearly when this is a problem. So, what is the problem? When does the problem occur or not occur? What is the problem leading to? Who is affected by the problem? When is the problem not a problem? Then how is it felt by people who have this problem? And how big is this, right? Now there is a test to understand this. There are two questions, why and so what, that you need to be very, very, very sure about. Why is about, why should we solve this problem? Okay, why is this a problem? Why should I solve this problem? There are so many existing solutions. Generally, we don't understand that there are a lot of solutions that exist already. In spite of that, why is it relevant that I solve this problem? So what? That means what happens if I solve this problem? So what happens if I don't solve this problem? So these are two very powerful questions that you can use. Why is this a problem? Why should I solve this problem? And ask as many whys as you can. And these two questions you can ask for any kind of startup idea or hackathon. It doesn't matter which one that you're talking to. It's a tech startup, it's a tech problem, anything non-tech, agri-tech, medtech, fintech, anything that you want to use, you can use this for. Why and so what. Now, we always think, at least many of us, technology needs to be there to create value. We saw the patent that we saw for $1.5 million, the bag carrying pizzas. There is no technology apart from folding paper. That's an old technology. That's nothing new. So technology by itself is not value. Don't think and tell yourself that I should have artificial intelligence, I should have machine learning, I should use Python, it should have IoT, it should have robotic. It can have, but that is not the reason to make it successful or valuable. For example, when you give medical scans of cancer patients to doctors, suppose you give 100 scans, today the accuracy is give and take for an experienced doctor about 80%, they get it right. So that means 80% of the patients who have cancer are detected. So that means another 20 are not detected. So how do you use technology is, now I use artificial intelligence. So every time I learn what is correct, this 80% goes to 96, 97, even 98%. During COVID times, I had a friend, a doctor. When we were still in the early phases of COVID, we were all taking the test, if you remember. And even today, there are a lot of debate about it. And the accuracy is arguably 50%. So he had already done, about after 6-7 months, not an oral test with the throat and the nose, but he had a AI-based technology, a solution, which will take the scan of your lung, and based on the status of your lungs, he would come to a conclusion whether you are COVID affected or not. So it's a very non-invasive, but more accurate, but technology was involved. But the technology as AI that was used there was not the innovation. The accuracy and the ease at which people could be diagnosed COVID was of value. So that means you should move away from technology to benefits of technology. So if you want to use blockchain, don't use blockchain because blockchain can be used. Use blockchain because it's something else it cannot do that job. If, for example, we did a hackathon a couple of years ago with Karnataka government and the police department here locally, local government. The idea was, how do we use blockchain for maintaining records of drivers who have done offense? So can they be hacked, for example? Because if you want to bring in fines based on where you can take back your license and so on, you should be very robust in your technology, right? You cannot allow, because cybersecurity is one of the toughest things today. So that was one. Then there was this application about how can we use blockchain for land records so that there is no fraud that can happen. So, or even mistakenly that it can happen. So always think, don't go behind technology as the cause of innovation, right? Technology can be used as long as it brings benefits to this solution, to this usefulness that you have. So you remember, it is not being right or wrong in innovation, right? You can't be innovation. Neither is correct. So what is correct then? What is correct is usefulness, right? When you have usefulness as the indicator, that means what I do should be useful to someone. So that means today they are not able to get that benefit because there is no such innovation, right? So the whole idea is you continuously look at how do you do innovation, because the usefulness is kept in mind. And there are other means and factors how you can understand usefulness is usefulness in time, in cost, in accuracy, in comfort. Like I said, A to B, you can have different kinds of variables, right? You should find that variable. Our solution is different than that solution in this way. Our solution is useful than this solution this way. It's beneficial in this way. So there is no right or wrong. I can choose anything I want. I can choose a $25 phone. I can choose a $650 phone. More or less, they do the same thing, but may not be everything that I want. Okay, it does not do X, Y, Z, but then I don't want X, Y, Z. So why should I pay for it? So that means you should be clear what is the needle movement of your innovation is. Which needle does your innovation move that you never had in the first place, right? So many times when you bring your innovation, if the usefulness and the needle movement are unclear to you, there is another big problem. You cannot communicate the worth of your innovation to anybody clearly. So, for example, one of the standard questions is, okay, how is it different from what exists? You should be crystal clear, prepared with your answer. Because you already, if you have done the work that we discussed so far, you would have known already that this is the difference between 1 and 2. Our solution does what no other solution can, right? Airbnb or whatever you want to take. Somewhere, something that you have done is better, is more useful to the user than the other solutions that exist. Until that is crystal clear and it is true, you will not have a successful innovation, right? So usefulness is always it. Also understand it is not an exact science. You cannot make an algorithm, even ChatGPT will not be able to do that soon. The idea is you understand, you empathize, it's a feeling. And that is where you have emotions involved. People get angry when your idea is rejected, you get angry because your emotions are involved. And people get irritated if they buy your product, your innovation, and then they see it is not doing what you promised them. So a lot of emotions are involved throughout the innovation cycle. There is more than science to it as well. But at the same time, you have to understand, you have to take your chances. You cannot be overly safe. You cannot be, not having. So if you want the cheese, take your chance, but be willing to take some risk as well, right? So I would like to stop here at this point of time. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn or so, I'm there as well, so you can do that. But if you have questions, I'll be happy to take it. So anybody is going to moderate or just pick the question? Anybody has any questions to clarify, comments?
We have one question here.
Yeah, sure. How can we start our idea? Let me start with that, Mohammed. So you should not start with an idea, in my view. The reason is simple. When I say idea, if you see dictionary meaning, it is the plan of action. Let me visualize this way for you. You walk into a doctor with a problem. So when you walk into the doctor's clinic, you have a certain problem, some pain somewhere in your stomach or something. Now I am the doctor, and as soon as you come, I'll give you medicine. Would you be comfortable taking that medicine? Would you trust me? Would you like it? No, because I didn't even ask what is the problem. Secondly, in innovation, what happens is when you observe, a lot of things appear as problems. So one of the biggest skills in innovation is observation. So before starting your idea, you need to understand how you learn things. And one of the things, if you have observation as a learning mechanism, you start with that. So then you start to say, okay, now I know this problem. Then you can work on your idea. Now, then when you work on your idea, what happens is, hey, you know what? There are so many solutions existing. Why is it that people are facing this problem? So you cannot do the same thing which the existing solutions do. Then you need to do more work. What is the existing solution? How do they do? Why are they not successful? Okay. So the whole idea is when you first understand the problem, second, you understand the existing solutions, then you can start with your idea. Then you can be very honest with yourself. Is it really different from what we have? Is it really better than what exists? In what way? Maybe the current one is faster, but my solution is safer. So the variable selection becomes very important for your idea. So when you work on your idea, look at three things. Is it an idea that people are looking for? That means, is it a problem? Two, how different is it my idea from the rest of it? And three, how do I communicate this idea for people to see the benefit, which is very important. Okay, so for example, I make an invention where the fridge compartments, I can change. Okay, you have such fridges already. It is very difficult for some normal person to articulate why this is useful to the customer who buys that fridge, because they'll ask for a little bit more price maybe. Right? How do I sell a car with a sunroof? How do I sell a car with ABS? So there is always that part. So the benefit, when you are clear, is very important. So do work on the problem, do work on the existing ideas and how you are better with your idea. At the same time, how do you communicate your idea? This is very important to all of you, not just Mohammed question. Thank you, Mohammed. When I look at a mobile phone, say an iPhone, it has a Gorilla Glass. But I cannot tell my mother, who is 82 years old, that it has Gorilla Glass. I can only tell her what benefit she gets from the Gorilla Glass. So I can tell her if you drop the phone, it doesn't crack. So I don't tell Gorilla Glass because that is my idea. But the benefit is not the idea. The benefit and idea are two different things. So similarly, if I go and tell this has 4,300 milliampere battery, she doesn't understand. Many people do not understand. Forget about her. So I can tell you, you can only charge with normal use in once in 2 days. So benefit and idea are very different. Hope that gives you an idea, Mohammed. Ramesh, how should we feed information while pitching if time is limited? Like exactly, like I said, Ramesh, I think it's a very, very good question. Thank you for asking. Focus on how your solution is different and what is the benefit. Only two things if you have very short of time. Focus on what is the difference of your difference between your solution and existing solutions, and what is the benefit that get out of doing this solution, Ramesh. That's the best way. B2 Joseph, innovation for a majority is better than innovation for minority. If yes, then minority gets size. Yes, absolutely right. So when I look at this, the sales of Ferrari cars last to last year doubled. Okay, so if you look at it, they went from 1800 to 3600. Then and Toyota and Honda makes cars in millions. So you can call it minority, but if that minority gives you value for what you do, then B2 you have got a good solution as well. So it doesn't have to be for everyone. More is not better because the margin is what you said. For example, an iPhone costs $150, $170 in terms of material, but they sell it for $650. So when you do it for majority, you do a cost-based selling. When you do for minority, you do a value-based selling. So you have to choose a good question, B2, which one you want to do. Omran, how can I prepare my mind to be innovative? A daily habit or a specific food? Yeah, I prefer the question in because I believe that is a question that I love, and I do share my view with people that it is a habit. So there are a couple of things when you say habit. If you keep doing the same thing, it becomes a habit. If I'm a right-hander, so there are 2-3 things that I recommend, Omran. One is you need to do build work on your observation skills. Meaning, if you sit in a mall, if you sit in an airport, if you sit in a public place, observing is not seeing. Observing is understanding what you're seeing. Hearing is not listening. Understanding what you hear is listening. Same way, observation skill. Observe what do the people do. How many people? The other day, me and my wife were going on road. We were in a traffic jam. Okay, so vehicle was moving slowly. After a while, I told her most of the cars that are overtaking us are from this brand. Then we started to monitor: is it true? The hypothesis, and it was. So the idea is observation is a habit. Number one. Number two, you have to understand why people do certain things. And that's where you need to understand, can you be ambidextrous yourself? If you're a right-hander, can you brush with your left hand? If you, maybe many of you don't know which sleeve of your shirt you put first, which shoe you wear first. Maybe there is a pattern. So recognizing patterns is very, very, very strong outcome after observation, because if with observation, you can plot patterns. Then can you become ambidextrous? Can you do your other hand every other day? Because the fourth one is very important. Psychologically, you should accept that everything that you try, you will not succeed, Omran. The whole point is you can try 25 things. 10,000 experiments of Edison is a famous example that which he didn't succeed. And we only know which one he succeeded, but we don't know how many he did not. Microsoft, apparently, Bill Gates pitched his idea to 1,200, 1,300 people who said no to it. So the whole idea is you have to be psychologically prepared that you and your idea are not the same thing. When somebody rejects your idea, they're not rejecting you. You are still able to come up with new ideas and then make a success out of it. So observation, pattern recognition, being ambidextrous and psychologically vulnerable to failure is very important. I don't see more questions here. Very good. So if there are no more questions, then I'll be happy to connect you over LinkedIn, or you can let me know how I can support you in the future. Would be very glad to do that. Wish you all the luck with your hackathon.